And now the story of an incredible reunion. This one happened after 34 years of separation.
Stephen Leventhal and Lyle Rosenbaum had gone through their lives totally unaware of each other's existence. But all that changed one day in a New York restaurant.
At birth, Lyle was separated from his twin brother, Steve. Both were put up for adoption. They both grew up in Brooklyn, unaware of each other, though their paths often crossed.
I would say when I was about 15 years old, I went into a store in Kings Highway in Brooklyn, and I bought a suit, and the salesman comes over to me and says, "We'll charge it." I then turned around and said, I don't have a charge account in the store. He says, "That's incredible." He says, "Because I just sold you a suit a few days ago, and you have a charge here."
I took a trip into Brooklyn. At the time, I stopped into a gas station to get some gas. I filled the car up, and the attendant opened the door, hopped into my car, and told me where we're going to go. And I looked at him quite oddly, that he knew who I was, but yet I didn't know who he was.
When Steve and Lyle were 15, they came close to working together at the same department store. Ironically, it was another case of mistaken identity that kept them apart.
I worked for the Alexander department stores, but the rent-a-car division. I went to the Alexander department store in Regal Park, where I took a medical, and somebody came over to me and said, "What are you doing in the store?" And I looked at them, and I said, "You know, I work here. I work downstairs." He said, "Well, what time is it?" And I gave him the time. He turned around, he looked at me, and he just walked away.
When I was working at Alexander's, I called in sick one day. The following day, when I came back to the store, I found a pink slip that I was fired. I went over to the manager of the department, and I asked him why was I fired. I said I had a legitimate excuse, and I would like to know the reason for it. He said that I had a nerve shopping in the store, that I called in sick the same day. I figured that somebody was walking around who had a very close resemblance to myself. My wife and I went to a restaurant to have dinner.
That's what I said, but somebody told me that.
Lyle's uncle was also having dinner there that night and spotted a person he thought was his nephew across the room. He went over to say hello. To his astonishment, the young man failed to recognize him. At first, Steve was merely amused by the misunderstanding. Then he showed the man his driver's license to prove his identity.
Lyle's uncle was so struck by the resemblance that he was convinced the two boys must somehow be related.
He insisted that Steve call Lyle's mother and gave Steve the number.
I called. Matter of fact, I believe it was originally my mother who made the first contact.
First question out of her mouth was, "Are you adopted?" And if you answer yes, I like to talk to you. But if you answer no, just hang up, forget the conversation. So I said, "Yes, I am." She therefore turned around and asked me what I looked like. I gave her a very brief description of myself. And it was at the end of the statement that she turned around. She said to me, "Can I ask you one question?" I said, "What is it?" She said to me, "Do you have any gray in your hair?" Now, this was when we were 27 years old. And not many people at that time, 27, have gray hair. That's when I really started to thought, that could be incredible.
The two arranged to meet for the first time at Steve's house. One look was all they needed.
My wife and myself were in another room, and they were kind of eager to see who this gentleman or kid looked like. So when they opened the door, all I heard was my mother saying, "Oh, my God."
Her father ran over to help her to see what was wrong, and he looked at me, and he started to get weak. It was at that time that I saw a picture of myself in a house that I never visited, married to a woman that I don't even know, on the piano. Stephen, of course, came out, greeted me, and we didn't know if we should shake hands or kiss.
I felt very odd that here I am with somebody that not only is my brother, but is an identical image almost.
Since their reunion, the brothers have become close friends.
I was extremely happy when we met, and matter of fact, my three children, Jeffrey, Robin, and Richard, call him Uncle Daddy, and they get kind of embarrassed because they make mistakes on who's who when we're together.
And I find the same thing is true with my family, with my sister's children, Mitchell and Russell. They do the same thing, and they have the same problems. Try to find out who we are.
Yeah, but we got each other now, and we're completely happy.